Well, Hamilton Odunze is live with me now from Boston, Massachusetts. He's an international affairs analyst. We are discussing the top stories so far. One is the Israel-Gaza situation with Hamas. Well, that's in the picture. Plus, the Putin and Zelensky issue, talking about the Ukraine and Russia war. First, good to have you join us this weekend. Israel has increased its attacks on Gaza. This comes after Hamas says it is ready for a comprehensive peace deal. What's your take on this?
My take is, well, the short answer is, does this work? Is increasing bombardments on Gaza, is it going to work? The short answer is no, it is not going to work. If anything, it is uniting the world against Israel, and also the opposite effect of that is that it is galvanizing sympathy for Hamas. Right? So these are the two the opposite ends of what is going on there. But let's look at the first premise of the analysis, which is Hamas ready for a comprehensive Gaza deal? This comes after President Trump had a call with the Hamas leadership. And Benjamin Netanyahu rejects entirely what Hamas wants as conditions for peace. For example, they want a permanent end to the fighting in Gaza. They also want a complete withdrawal of Israeli militaries from Gaza, and the beginning of reconstruction and the opening of all borders crossings to bring in all that is required into Gaza. But Netanyahu rejected this, and therefore he has escalated bombardment in Gaza, hoping to bring Hamas to the negotiating table. But the truth is that this is not going to work. Remember, Hamas is an organization that thrives on sympathy, and that's how they finance the organization to this point. So increasing bombardment without considering the civilian population that live in Gaza does nothing except to bring the world together against Israel and to galvanize sympathy for Hamas.
Right. It would be nice to see you, sit up a bit so we can understand, because we're trying to see how, from the background and the team, we're trying to see how you can, just sit up a bit so we can have the conversation as we move on. Now, do you think the bombardment is working, bringing Hamas to negotiate? One of the reasons given by Benjamin Netanyahu is that they believe that Israel's defense minister, if he continues to intensify efforts there, that will mean that Hamas will come to their terms. Do you think this is working?
It is not working, and it's not going to work. Remember, well, for what it is worth, Hamas is we call it a terrorist organization, but they've been able to direct the affairs of Palestine and Gaza for a very long time. So the bombardment is not going to work. Like I said, what it does is it brings sympathy to Hamas and donations coming in from the Middle East and people, wanting to be a part of what is going on. It's actually galvanizing the world against Israel. So bringing Hamas thinking that bombing is going to bring them to the table is a wrong strategy for Israel. It is galvanizing the world against them, and it is making Hamas look even more powerful, and people are reaching out to them in sympathy.
I remember just a couple of hours or say a day ago, Hamas said they are now ready for a comprehensive deal. This means that the push that Israel has been having, talking about the bombardment of, the Gaza city and strategic points, it may look as if that is working, because after the takeover of some of the territory around, Israel, it seems like once they begin to intensify efforts, Hamas begins to respond.
Well, I don't know if you call that respond. They are still where they are in terms of their conditions for the negotiation. For example, like I said, they want Israel to, all withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Like I said, it only came after President Trump has called on them to negotiate. But the issue is that it's not doing anything to bring peace in the Middle East. And what Israel is doing, they are not considering the the civilian population that lives in Gaza. And as they continue to bombard, there's increase in people who are dying. There's also increase in the fear of starvation. So this is what is going on, and it's not going to bring Hamas to the table any closer. It's not going to bring peace closer to the to Gaza and to that area.
Okay, now from what Hamas has said, we keep our fingers crossed and see what will happen in the coming days, since they said they are now ready for negotiations. Now, despite the UN's condemnation, the destruction in Gaza has continued, with Western leaders planning sanctions against Israel. I remember last weekend we had a
Right.
conversation about, the Western leaders talking about France and, the UK meeting to see how they can begin to propagate sanctions. Would any sanction hold water?
I don't think so. I don't think any sanctions will work because of the people who are, the actors in this war. The first actor is the United States and Israel. So the sanctions is not going to work. As much as the United Nations call these attacks horrific, it is horrific because of the number of people who have died and the number of people who are also being displaced. The United Nations spokesperson said in August, if you remember, that the decision to intensify the attack on Gaza City could have a horrific impact on civilians. So I don't think any sanctions is going to work. And the thing is, are we still is it realistic that we are expecting sanctions on Israel when the two parties, the most important parties in the conflict, that would do something to stop it, Israel and the United States, they are not part of these sanctions, so it's not going to work.
Okay, some of these countries we well know, are in business with Israel. So probably halting business and talking about supplying arms could maybe, you don't know, but fingers crossed, maybe that could work, talking about the Western-led leaders now. But what's the place of the ICC in the world in all of this that's happening, and has it lost its grip on sanctions? If, the Western leaders and the world cannot do anything about it, what's the place of ICC?
So, like I said, the ICC, what you have to remember is Israel is not part of the ICC. The United States is not part of the ICC. So the ICC seems to be, if you will, for lack of words, a cliche, a toothless bulldog. So what is going on is that the two parties that are supposed to be part of this, that are supposed to stop this war, are not part of the ICC. So if you look at it from that perspective, the ICC is incapacitated. They are they are ineffective when it comes to stopping the war, and it looks like they are helpless when it comes to stopping what is going on in Gaza.
I know that you've mentioned already that such an issue cannot happen without, people losing their lives. Because next question I was going to ask you was with regards to the issue of, bombarding Gaza and not expecting lives to be lost. That is, as you said, it's not
Right.
possible. Now, Hamas is a terrorist organization. For a terrorist organization such as Hamas, how do you deal then, with such a group?
Dealing with such a group is a difficult situation. And remember, Hamas is not just a terrorist organization. It morphed into a government when it comes to Gaza. It has run the affairs of Gaza for a very long time. So it's not just a terrorist organization that you can deal with. So it's a difficult situation because of where they are now as a terrorist organization. I agree with you, they're a terrorist organization, but they've morphed into almost a pseudo government when it comes to Gaza and Palestine. So it's a really difficult situation, and there's no way. One of the conditions that the Israeli government gave is disarming Hamas. Is that a realistic condition, that you're going to disarm almost a terrorist organization that has become a government? Yeah, so it's very difficult.
Over to Russia now. Putin, this is one of the stories that's, trending right now. Putin is rejecting any form of security guarantees for Ukraine as part of discussions around an end to the war. We're looking forward to a summit in Paris, but Putin seems to be in charge. What is your take with regards the whole circle round about, you know, the war coming to an end, negotiation. He's wanting to take over territory. Zelensky is not ceding territory. We're going round and round in circles. So what do we look forward to, you know, and his rejection of the Western influence on security guarantees for Ukraine?
Well, like you said, we are going round and round in circles, and the truth is that I don't think Putin wants this war to stop. If you look at when the war started, he was losing support in Russia, but now the support is beginning to come back. So he's now emboldened to continue the war. And to be honest with you, the meeting in Alaska with President Trump did not help matters. So he's not willing to stop this war. There are so many reasons why he's not going to do that. Like I said, one of the first reasons is that he's gaining back support in Russia, and also the meeting in China. That tells you that there's a realignment of global powers, and the tariff that President Trump put on countries, I think he rubbed so many countries the wrong way. So now they are coming together for a realignment, if you will, and that is what you see happening in that happened in China, and it has emboldened Putin to continue the war, and I don't think he's going to stop it until he, until he gets his will of. In the first place, the idea that Ukraine is a sovereign nation is what he does not like, and that's what is going to. That's why he's going to continue the war until he achieves that purpose.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned the issue of tariffs. How possible is it for the issue of tariffs to be brought up by the U.S. to influence all of this that's happening with Russia and Ukraine, especially that, Putin seemed to have aligned with the likes of North Korean president to talk about China and India as well. India being slashed or, smashed a 50% tariff. How can tariff, sort of make Putin come to the table? And is that even possible?
No, it's not possible. To be honest, yeah, it's not possible to make Putin come to the table. If anything, it's going to galvanize support for him, because a lot of countries, like I said, take India, for example, the tariff rubbed them the wrong way. In fact, it made them lose hope in the United States, who are the foremost country when it comes to free trade. And here we are, all of a sudden, you're imposing tariffs on all the countries in the world. And what that means is that they can't sell their goods in the biggest market in the world, which is the United States. Yeah. And people like India and many other countries in the world are looking at it, the second time, and they want realignment. So tariffs is not going to work. If anything, it's going to bring people together bring countries together against the United States. And that is exactly what it's doing right now.
Right. So finally, how about, the Trump? So from the conversation we're having, mentioning Putin and, Trump and the meeting in Alaska, do you think Trump was played? Because the meeting he hoped would have taken place between Putin and Zelensky, that hasn't happened. And it's obvious Trump is getting frustrated about the non-compliance by Russia.
Right. So President Trump says he was going to, secondary sanction on that is one of the things that had also emboldened Putin, because President Trump says he's going to impose a secondary sanction, and that has not happened, right? That hasn't happened, and we're still waiting to see what he's going to do about it. But the truth is that, he continues to not be straightforward with the world and what he's trying to do with Russia and the war in Ukraine, but he doesn't have. We don't know what Putin has and what he's doing with Trump, but the truth is that the tariffs is not going to work, and it would have worked if he knew how to use it. But putting 50% tariff on India is not realistic, and it's pushing people away from the United States.
Thank you so much, Hamilton Odunze, for the time. He's international affairs analyst, joins us from Boston, Massachusetts. Really appreciate you for the time.